We're returning from closed session and proceeding with our agenda, and we are at the point of the public hearing on tentative tax levy. The President of the Board of Education calls a public hearing to order regarding the proposed 2023 tax levy. And we'll proceed with Anthony Ruelli with review of the proposed levy.
Yeah, so tonight is the final of the 2023 tax levy. On December 7th, a truth and taxation hearing was posted in the paper for tonight's hearing, and then once approved after tonight, the tax levy needs to be filed to the county clerk by December 26th. So some definitions before I proceed. A levy is the requested amount raised from property taxes, so the projected amount. The extension is the actual billed dollars from property taxes that the district will collect. And then the collection is the actual dollars collected. Historically, the district has collected roughly 99% of the tax extension. EAV is the equalized assessed valuation of the property. New property growth is the new improvement or additions to the real estate property. And then CPI is the consumer price index, which sets the increase of tax dollars. So in DuPage County, districts are legally, they would have to receive up to 5% or CPI if it's lower than 5%. For the 2023 tax levy, CPI is 6.5%. So the district is only receiving 5% plus new property growth. And here is a valuation of CPI with tax levy and tax extension. So looking at last year, 2022 tax levy, the levy in red is what the district asked for. So this time period last year, the increase was 9%. CPI in blue was 7%. And then what the district received was 6%. So it's in line with CPI. And as you see in previous years, again, yeah, so the extension of what the district actually received is in line with CPI. Here is a history of EAV, so equalized assessed valuations for the taxing body. So for example, 2022, it was projected, so this time last year, roughly $628 million of EAV, and actually came in at 587. So historically, and best practice is to overestimate because these numbers don't come in until the springtime. So for the 2023 tax levy, there's a assumption of $700 million for the equalized assessed valuation of the district. Here's new property growth history. So looking at what in red the district levied for, so projected, and in green what the district actually received in new property growth. So again, it is best practice to overestimate new property growth, because if the red comes in lower than the green, so what we actually received, we lose those dollars compounded as years progress. So for this year, we are projecting $7 million of new property growth, but the trend is usually around $3.5 to $4.5 million. So again, we're overestimating to capture all those new property funds. So here is a breakdown of the 2021 and 2022 levy requested versus what we actually received in the extension. And then in yellow is the tax levy for the 2023. So being that the education fund is the largest fund in the district, we are levying the most in that fund, $20 million. But overall levy for 2023 is $30.6 million. And that represents 11.37% from the prior year. Again, as we look back to the slide of CPI in relation to tax levy and extension, it runs in conjunction with CPI of what we actually received. So does that mean the district is going to be taxing individuals 11%? No. We have to ask more and project more so we don't lose those funds compounded as years progress. That's all I have tonight. Is there any questions?
So this is not the first time that we've talked about the levy, right?
Correct. Every year, there is a levy, tentative levy presented in November, and districts need to approve the actual levy by the last Tuesday of December.
And we asked questions at the last meeting as well.
Correct.
So if anybody's watching this for the first time, this is not the first time that we are talking about $30 million.
Correct, and it was also posted in the newspaper more than 7 days, but less than 14. So December 7th, it was posted in the paper, the total amount of what the district's levying and the percent increase of the tax levy.
Hey, quick question. Can you go back to the CPI versus tax levy versus tax extension slide?
Yeah.
So it looks like for the first time in a while, you know, CPI rose more than the increase.
Yeah.
Is that due to inflation? Is there, are we losing money, or is our buying power not as great, or?
For what, the 6%?
Yeah.
So districts are capped at 5. So off the bat, they're capped at 5. What's added to the additional 5% is new property growth.
Okay.
So that's why CPI since looking back in the 1990s has never been over 5%. So last year was the first year of over 5%. That's why it's less than 7% because we're capped at 5. This year, CPI is being used at 6.5%. So projected levy return is going to be over 5%, between that 5 and 6.5%.
Okay, thank you.
And CPI is like 2 years in arrears. So
It
like
is.
essentially, we're talking about inflation that happened 2 years ago.
We're talking inflation that happened 2 years ago.
Yeah. Which can be a little bit challenging to think about because we didn't get any increase
Correct.
when the rest of the world got real expensive.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, with that, with the extension, even with new property growth, can you get much higher than 6%? Or is that usually 1% is kind of maxing out with new property?
No, it's not. I mean, there's many factors that can get to more than 6% and 1%. For example, if a TIF district runs over the tax bills that same year, well, you need to recapture all that new property. Or for example, 1 year outside of a TIF district, there's been a large number of new projects, new stores. That significant increase of new property growth would play an impact. But off the bat, they're capped at 5. And looking at the data, we are trending at $3.5 to $4.5 million of new property growth. And talking to the assessor of the county, they don't foresee, anything more than 4.5% of new property growth, or $4.5 million of new property growth.
How does like Quincy Station fit into that? It hit in '22, but is part of the TIF.
It is part of the TIF, so we do not see those new property growth revenue until the TIF is up and due. I think 2036.
When the TIF expires that year, we'll see like a significant jump in property growth because essentially everything that grew in the TIF during the 500 years it was a TIF.
So
It's that year.
So
Yeah.
for example, we're in the future, 2036, TIF, is due. Looking at the new property growth history slide, I would be requesting significant more than $10 million to recapture all that growth that happened within the TIF to ensure that the district doesn't lose dollars, because if we underestimate, we lose it forever.
Wait, 2036, Anthony.
Hey.
Any more questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
To just wrap up this portion, I'm going to ask if there are any other comments from the board regarding the levy. Okay, from here, I'll ask if there is any public comment concerning the proposed 2023 tax levy. Okay, no public comment. So at this time, I'll declare that the public hearing on the proposed 2023 tax levy is closed. And we'll proceed with our agenda to the approval of minutes. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the November 14th, 2023 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. We'll move to the closed session. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the closed session of the November 14th, 2023 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. And I see that we don't have public comment at this time. We'll proceed with the consent agenda. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Personnel recommendations, David Stawick, WHS Wrestling volunteer, and resignations. 2, renewal of the SSCIP insurance agreement. 3, approval of the additional November and December 2023 expenditure report. 4, ratification of the November 2023 regular payroll. And 5, approval of student tours. If there are no questions, we'll go for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Avia?
Yes.
Mr. Marin?
Yes.
Ms. Redonio?
Yes.
Ms. Steckity?
Yes.
Ms. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Rogers?
Yes.
Right. And now we'll proceed with our information and discussion, starting with the master facility plan.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
First, kind of a background. So we started this last year, and the goal was to basically go back and track what investments have been made by the district in the last 15 years in facilities, so we could document that. And then working with Anthony and Joe to look at things that were in their kind of list of to-dos for infrastructure projects. So roofs, masonry, mechanical systems, and what would be considered for the next 10 years. And then also some options that have been discussed in the past, the pool, a couple different options at Manning, so those are included. And the ultimate goal was to create a document, the kind of a living document that could be on the district website, that's like a dashboard that would show what the district's plans are. Because if you just took the 10 years of infrastructure projects, right now, they're all kind of within, we don't have a year for them. But working as you go forward with Anthony, say a roof at the high school, you would determine what the estimated cost is, when that would fit into the budget, and then plan it, and then it would show that, 2028, that roof's going to happen, and then as you go on each year, you kind of update the list. And it's a common practice by most school districts to track kind of their infrastructure projects. And it helps because whenever you have other projects that are more classroom or technology-based or safety, you have to also factor in that you have to maintain the building. So you want to know what those costs are and then what these other projects are. So we basically put together this draft, and I'm going to do an example of one building. We basically have this information for each of the buildings, and we decided to kind of put together the information in multiple ways so it could be analyzed in different ways. So there's kind of cost data that's in spreadsheet form. There's drawings that tie to the projects that were completed, so where those took place, what year they took place, and then those link to the spreadsheets. And then there's a building information, which has more kind of mundane information, but very important on each building. The boilers, what's the mechanical system, electrical capacity, exiting, and it's information that we track with the State Board of Ed, and so we have that information too. So we're going to basically look at Manning as an example, and then we'll kind of look at these potential projects. So this is an overall view. So this shows the top half, shows the projects that were completed. So these were the last 15 years. And these are everything from, little plumbing projects to creating the new principal's office at the junior high school, the renovation at all schools for security, moving in administration from J.T. Manning to South School. So we went back and basically tracked all the permits, all the bids and everything, and there were approximately $24 million that were spent in the last 15 years at each of the schools, or all the schools combined. And then the bottom half in the green is basically around 22 million, and those are projects that are identified at each building, and they're related to, boilers, roofs, masonry, plumbing systems, converting steam to hot water. And they're all detailed for each building, as you'll see in the next page. But this kind of gives you an overall view of the district. And this is looking just at Manning. So the top part of the spreadsheet are the projects that were completed. So the first one was in 2006, and then last one in 2021. And then at the bottom are the ones that were planned. So there were basically was 3.4 million of renovation projects at Manning. The more significant ones were moving the administration to South School, that then freed up multiple classrooms that were renovated and converted back into classrooms. The library was renovated, the computer lab was created. Then there were roof projects, other projects in the building. And then the most significant one recently was in 2016-17, which is a security project where there's an addition on Linden. We moved the principal's office from the alley to the front of the building, and then added accessibility. There was a new workroom, restrooms, a new nurse's office. So that was the most significant project recently. So each of these schools, we have this kind of tracked, and then you'll see this is also in the drawings. So the drawings are really to give you kind of a visual, three-player visual information about each of the buildings. So we have an overall aerial view, a site plan view that shows lot area, any projects that might have happened on the site. And then basically each of the floors, we have an overall floor plan, and the areas in different colors and with the different tags show what happened when, and then what the cost was when those projects were completed. And all those projects were in the cost at that point in time. And then at the bottom of the sheet are these kind of, or bottom of the spreadsheet at the top of the drawing are future projects and the approximate costs, and then those also tied to the spreadsheets.
Do the colors mean anything in particular on that sheet?
Pardon me?
The colors of the different areas?
So let me go to the first floor, it might make more sense. So on the first floor on the, to the right-hand side in the magenta, that was where the administration used to be. And that's what the renovation that occurred where we basically moved the administration, freed up 2 classrooms. And that was really important. When we did this project, the enrollment at Manning at the time was over 500 students. It was actually, I think it was, at the point, it was larger than the high school. And they were just bursting at the seams. So moving the administration to South School really helped. And then at the same time, we basically renovated the library at Manning and at Miller. And we, the one at Miller was up in like where the workroom is. It was a really poor library. So we moved it to the first floor, built a class, the garden room at Miller, and then the computer lab here. And then the area that's in the bright green, that was the most recent project where we created the new entrance on Linden, moved the principal's office from the alley, created a nurse's office, a workroom, staff restrooms, and a new and an accessible entrance. Renovation up above. On the second floor, the area that's in the magenta, that was, those were actually they were science labs from when it was a middle school that had kind of been abandoned in place. So there was kind of abandoned casework around the perimeter. That was completely gutted, and we created 2 large classrooms. And these classrooms were kind of sized to be more like what the district would imagine future classrooms to be. So they're larger than some of the older ones in the 1920s portion of the building, and allow the teachers to teach in different ways. They can do more collaborative work versus just chairs lined up in rows. And then this next document, so this is the start of the building information. So there's general information in here about acreage, square feet per floor, enrollment information per grade, and then it gets into issues about the building itself, construction type, exiting, ages of the building. Manning's actually an interesting one since it goes back. I was just looking at the photograph outside where it was called Central School back in the 30s. It's interesting to see the change. But, 1928, 1949, 53, 65, and then 2017. What the different construction is for the floors, roofs. Some of this information is more interesting to architects and Joe than to other people, but it's helpful information, and it's information we need to maintain for the State Board of Ed. So when we submit 10-year health, life, safety surveys, we need to update that so they have a record at the state on all the information about each building. Egress, special occupancies, then the utility systems, what the heating plants are, ventilation, water service, plumbing services, fire protection. So it's kind of basic information, but we have that for each of the buildings. And then these are order of magnitude estimates for 3 projects that have been studied in the past. Order of magnitude, these are 50,000-foot views. They're based on data, working with construction managers. We worked with Pepper Construction for a replacement of JT Manning. We worked with ECI. Back in 2011, the district did a study about renovating or replacing Manning, and this was using Executive Construction, which is a construction manager in Hillside. We went through and created drawings, scope sheets, and everything with them, and basically this was then updated to today's dollars based on that cost estimate that was done in 2011. And in simple terms, this is renovating basically new heating system, cooling, floorings, lighting, technology, basically taking a building that has 1920s, 1940s, 1950s, and bringing it up to today's standards. It also factored in some expansion. There's about 15,000 square foot of expansion on the building to allow for some, different programs.
How many students would that equate to?
This was based on the current enrollment back then, which was about 500.
So 15,000 square feet would equate to
15,000, it was just a
600?
placeholder. It really wasn't looking at that. Because again, it really wasn't, these are like conceptual studies, not based on a design, a design. If you really wanted to get down to a real cost, it would be working through design, what are your needs and wants, and then documenting something in a schematic way, and then estimating off of that.
Is that what they did in 2011? Or no?
No, because it was similar to this, where they want to know roughly, what are we talking about? How much money will we talk to do a renovation? Is it $1 million, $10 million? So it basically, is $19 to $22 million.
Why did they ask that question in 2011?
Right.
That's a real big question, and this is a lot of work and a lot of money. Why did they ask that question in 2011?
I think the same reason Manning's an old school, and they wanted to know what's going to cost to renovate it. When we first got involved, they had a boiler there that was from the 50s. The steam system there has always been an issue. I mean, Joe's been working on it, but it's an older system, so they really wanted to know what would it take to upgrade this. Because you could film some movies in some of those classrooms. They look like they're 1945. The lighting's original, the univentilator is original, the flooring, all the casework and everything. They wanted to know what would it take to renovate that. So that's what it was.
But how do we know that now 10 years later, this is what we need?
This isn't necessarily what you need. This was really just asking roughly what are we talking about. It was not based on a detailed analysis. It wasn't driven by curriculum. I mean, anything that happens in design needs to be driven by curriculum.
Right.
It was more like, we know we have an old building. What's a reasonable number to renovate this? And then obviously, we did some improvements, but didn't do this project.
And the biggest project in between then was the entrances?
Probably
They're
either,
completed
high
before
school?
or after this? When we did all the entrances at the schools, the safety
that was
upgrades?
after this.
That was after this?
Yeah,
That was
that
in
was
2016,
2011.
17.
That was in 2016, 17.
Okay.
But that was
Really,
kind
I
of our
can't remember
biggest
what-
project.
Yeah, I don't remember what crisis happened, but there was some, student shooting or whatever that happened between there that really took security to the top of the list. Because you had Manning, the principal's office was on the alley. They couldn't see who was coming and going. Miller was on the second floor in the back. The high school, they had no view of the entrance. Junior high was the best, and that was just kind of by the grace of God. It just happened to be by the main entrance. And when we originally renovated that office, it was an old original footprint from the 70s. We put that vestibule in, anticipating that it should be secure. But that was the first school that actually was renovated for security. It was in 2007.
Okay.
So this is really big, broad brush picture, not really driven by design, but the square foot costs and everything, we're working with contractors that do schools and know what the costs are. So this was renovating. So it was basically 19 million and change to about 23 million. And then in 2021, we were requested to come up with a quick study on what would it cost to knock down and replace Manning and to factor in some level of growth. So we basically factored in about increasing the size of it about a third, but this would be demolish it completely and temporarily housing all the students at Miller using modular classrooms in addition to the school. And we worked, in this case, we worked with Pepper Construction. They had done a recent project in 2018 that was similar. And they basically then came up with, we used their cost per square foot, which was roughly, over $300 a square foot. Escalation, Turner Construction maintains a database of all like school and commercial construction. And then it's similar to CPI that you're talking about. It factors in what the average increase of construction costs are over the years. And it varies from, small numbers to, the highest was 8% like a year or so ago. But the last 10 years, the average increase is 3.85. So that's what we kind of use to extrapolate our numbers to future. Because these are older data. So this would be completely starting over, but it's not based on drawings, but it's based on square footage. So they know that roughly it costs between $300 and $400 a square foot to build something, and then we factor in these costs. So we went through and worked on this for a few weeks, and then gave this this to the district back in December 2021. And it was to answer a similar question, like, okay, what would it cost to knock it down? Is this, just so you have some sense. And this is basically, $60 million to $72 million. And it's important to think of a range, because it would really depend on what the design would be and what you're going to build. But if you're going to build something a third larger than what you have there, it's somewhere in this range.
This is an important point. So can I ask you just
Sure.
to run the numbers one more time? I think what we're hearing, it's $300 a square foot for the new construction.
Right. It's actually, in 2018, it was $334 per square foot to build new.
Today,
It's more. It's factored up, it's over $400 a square foot.
Good.
And so
And it varies, that's across the entire
and
building.
how many square feet approximately, I know, for a school of 600 students?
The total gross we're factoring in here is 89,000 feet.
Okay,
And square footage really varies across the building. A classroom is not a super expensive space. A bathroom, you're spending $1,000 a foot in a bathroom. A cafeteria space, lots of money spent there. So it really varies, but this is the average across the building. That's from foundations to the roof.
average, all right, so just if you could help me with the calculator, 89,000 square feet for 600 students?
Yeah, so just rough construction cost was basically 46 million. And that's beyond, not fees, there's contingencies, other owner costs.
So to build a new building for 600 students, you're estimating the cost would be?
Somewhere in $60 million range or higher.
And that's projected for 2028.
Correct. Yeah, I talked with Anthony and I said, like, what year should we pick here? And we just figured, 5 years out.
All right, dumb question, but important one, I think. Is there any, so that's a whopper. Is there
That's a
any?
whopper.
Is there any way, you see, that is gonna be the cost to build a new building for 600 students?
Is there any way what?
Is that that's what you're estimating the cost to be for?
At this point in time, on this is a very broad brush. To really, truly know, you would have to come up with, let's a program, come up with some kind of design, and then you can get a more detailed analysis. But it's not going to be half. It's going to be
Yeah.
somewhere in the range. That's where,
So we should look at the high end then, because we have to design it.
right.
So let's look at, round up $73 million for this.
But you're saying this is figured out at $335 per square foot, essentially? Jack's talking about like a 90,000 square foot building?
Well, no, that was 33 in 2018.
Yeah.
2018, yeah.
So,
He's projecting 463.
okay, but if 90,000 square feet, assuming $450 per square foot is $40,000.
41 million.
40 million.
40 million, sorry. Be lovely.
I know.
No,
Yes.
Be lovely. 40.5 million.
Right.
So how do we go from 40.5 to 70?
Let me zoom in here. Should I-
He added the owner's.
Yeah,
And I said 450
The additional is the
a
owner.
foot.
Yeah, so since there's not even design, there needs to be a design development allowance, because what are you going to build? I mean, we have no idea. So we typically carry, anytime we're doing estimating, until it gets down to, we really know what the design is, to carry a design contingency allowance. So there's 10%, it's another $4 million. And then if you go down below, you're into the other costs. I mean, owner's construction contingency would be 2.3, owner's contingency for unknown would be 4.6, all the different fees down there, engineering fees. I mean, there's soft costs, all the other costs you have. Abatement, the building needs to be abated, needs to be demolished. The modular classrooms, I think we estimated those at
1.8.
about $2 million to basically lease modular classrooms for 3 years, because you need to put these students somewhere. So you likely would use Miller and a series of modular classrooms to house them there. And that requires, setting them up, doing electrical, plumbing, everything, get those classrooms set. So all the costs are down below, but these are all typical costs on a construction project of this size.
So I guess the part that is just challenging for me to understand is why even say that it's $334 a square foot when it's not? Because these are all other construction costs?
No, because this was using a similar project that was built in 2018. Hard numbers, a building that was construction. So we then are extrapolating those to today's dollars. And that's the second line where it gets to $463 a square foot.
Okay.
I mean, typically what we've done, like, say you're going to go forward, you wanted to build a school. This is where everyone starts, is what kind of money are we talking? Because at some point, if this is too much, then what's a plan B? Do we renovate? There's other options. You would then figure out, okay, what do you want from a design? You would then be able to have something that, here's the floor plan, this is what the building would look like. A contractor could then really estimate it based on drawings, not on, just rough square footage. And then you also would have something you could communicate to the community on, this is what we're proposing to build. Because it's always, you need to show them, what are you talking about? What are the kindergarten rooms like? What are the classrooms like? What is our standard? And in some cases, we've had clients where we've built mock-ups and show, this is the classroom we're talking about in the future. This is your current one. This is what we're planning on building. This is the furniture. This is the teaching environment. So that you can tell the families, this is what your tax dollars are going towards. And then work that through. Then you actually have a solid number that you go to referendum with. You never would go to referendum with something like this.
I have a question, I'm sorry. This is probably a really dumb question, but I feel like in this presentation, there's a couple of times you said, like, we can't get more details and, like, actual numbers until we design, but, like, we're not designing. Like, who designs it? Who says, like, this is how we want our classrooms to look and this is what we need? Like,
with an architect, engineers, and a team from the school. Teachers, buildings, people work through, and it takes, months to a year to come up with a design.
Okay.
And then basically work through, and it's usually multiple iterations, because in many cases, you'll come up with an estimate and say, okay, we can't do that, so let's change the gym, what can we do? Come down to, okay, this looks good, this is something that's supporting. Then we typically do like open houses with the community to start to get their feedback. So it's a lot of back and forth, and then at the kind of end of that is, okay, do we feel confident that this could be something that we do a referendum on? And then it's basically selling the community on the benefits of doing the project. And I was talking with Joe and Anthony about this. We did a $50 million additions on 2 schools in LaGrange Park and Brookfield. And they were having enrollment growth. They really needed space because they were bursting at the seams. They were getting close to 3 classrooms worth of kids showing up a year, and they had no place to put them. So we did something just like this. They had this huge crisis, all these kids. And then we worked through, and it basically we started in 2016, and we finished the buildings in 2019. But it was a long process because they looked at different options. They looked at a K2 center. There's a park that they co-own with Brookfield. What about doing that to take some kids there? It looked like switching their middle school and their elementary school and flipping the functions. So we did options on that, and we ultimately came down, let's add on to the elementary school, knock down some space, add on there, and then basically add on space at the middle school. And we came up with drawings and concepts and renderings. They estimated, they worked with the state, because they were at their tax limit, so they had to get some kind of approval from Springfield to go above that. And then they basically went to referendum with it, and then it took a couple years to build. It's a process.
So
Yes.
just so I'm clear of what the work that went into putting this together. This is work that's already been done We just updated the numbers based on ratios, whether they are inflation ratios or construction best practices, benchmarks, or whatever, that say, if this is what we said it would cost then, this is what it would cost now.
Correct.
That's what we've got here, right?
Correct.
And this took how long to put together?
Well, these were like, I don't know what we spent back in 2011 to do the study, but we
No,
had that.
I mean since then, because that work's already done.
Oh, that's where this didn't take that long to put together because the information was already there. We just had to update the dollars. Like the one in 2021, Kevin asked me, and we did that in a couple weeks with Pepper and just, crunched numbers. He wanted to have a number. We put together, and then I basically took that and updated it for today.
But I feel like we asked for this a long
Asked for
time
this
ago.
like a year ago. I'm struggling to understand like why this took so long. Because I feel like we started this conversation a year ago with just updating this information. I'm having a hard time understanding that. And it concerns me, because we were talking about $70 million on one page and $22
And that's
million
just one-
on another page.
That's just
and-
one building, that's just two buildings here. We
And-
know the other buildings need things as well.
Well, but we're talking about a crisis in LaGrange Park. We are trying to avoid a crisis. We are trying to be proactive here. I feel like we asked for this information a long time ago, and I don't understand why it took so long to get here. And I'm struggling, like, it's not super easy to understand. I know we talked about it at a facilities meeting, I don't know, 6 months ago, maybe. And we talked about like ease of use for the layperson to understand, the not architect, the not facilities manager, the not even board member to understand. And I walk away from this with still lots of questions, like, the color coding on the pieces of Manning are great, but why not pull that up into and tie it to the little spreadsheet right on the top so that we wouldn't have to cross-reference the project key? We talked about updating these actual costs for inflation to understand truly, I believe we did at that meeting, to understand like the health, life, safety renovations of 2008 cost $530,000. Well, what does that mean if we were to do that today? Just to understand, for the layperson to understand, like, and I feel like we talked about that at that meeting, and we're not seeing much of it, and I'm not seeing a lot of new work here, and I'm struggling with that, because I'm looking down the barrel of, of a lot of potential cost, and a lot of work, years of work. I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm articulating the same thing, or if even, my reaction is the exact same as yours, but I just feel like we've lost time, valuable time. The buildings aren't getting younger. And there's a lot, it seems like there's a lot of work to get to a point where we would even know how to ask this community or tell them what we think we need. We don't know what we need. It's been a year, and this doesn't tell us anything about what we need. And that's very frustrating.
Outside of one school.
Well, I
Says what
think
we did
he
at
said that
Manning.
this is an example
Yeah.
from one school. So I mean, I don't know, maybe there's more work behind this or whatever. But all we have are updates from what's been done in the past, and we're not anywhere closer to understanding what we really are going to need. And I thought that was the point of what we were doing, was to get to the point where we would know what we would need.
I think I have a question closely related to that, because I'm not on the facilities, in fact, like, I haven't been part of these conversations. I imagine that some of this conversation happened like in December 2021, like I was on the board, but I don't remember us having a full conversation about this then. And so I think first and foremost, we need clarity on the process, and like, is the purpose of this to tell us what we need? Or it sounds to me like one of the things we need, and I think this is a question for people on facilities, and we can't ask Kevin because he's not here anymore, but maybe Jack now, but like, what, did we take that next step then of organizing a team and architects and teachers and figuring out like, what do we
Agenda item
we
number
need?
2. It is.
Yeah.
And so we do know that.
We did do that, or?
We want to. And that's part of our discussion that's coming up. So definitely, you're like on the right spot. That is part of the process that we'll get into, but this is a major part that we've been
Yeah.
asking for.
But
'Cause
we
know, like,
were we given that, we were given this before?
I think the 21
No, no,
ask
no.
was for the GLC conversation.
Yeah.
Right.
Got it.
For
Okay.
that, just so we would have a rough number to understand what our.
The benefit of.
Well,
that,
and
yeah.
because the community wants one
That makes
building,
sense.
We
GLC
needed
makes.
to understand, like, if that's even within our realm.
Forgot
So
about
on
the
the
GLC
committee-
conversation.
On the
was
committee,
so- it was
the
so awesome.
and you can speak to this a little bit more, but, so we weren't, none of us were here in 2011, so obviously it was a
Right.
question. So it did come up with our board before to ask for a capital plans project, to see, like, we know our buildings in crisis. We've been saying it, but we want to put fact behind us just saying, oh, our buildings are going to fall apart. Like, what does that mean? So.
So we did that
The
in the-
committee started to ask, like, what do we do
Yeah.
next as far as assessing where we are? And we started to ask a lot of questions that Leah has alluded to, but we started to ask, like, well, what is, in general, what is the cost of, and then this is our terms, where we're not, very adverse, I guess, at speaking construction, but what's the general cost, or what can we do to start looking at costs of renovating versus new building?
Yeah,
And so
so-
some of that conversation came from that committee to ask for that.
I see. Okay,
in the
thank you
time.
for
And so
that
I don't know if you want to add to that,
context.
Anthony.
Yeah, so the process of this construction plan was proposed in November of 2022, board approved in December 22, and then through the course of 23, there was 3 finance and facility meetings that we communicated, talked about prior to the last one, prior to this meeting. I know one of them, Steve did attend, and we went through kind of the blueprint and looked at other districts and figured out, okay, what worked, what didn't work, and we had tabs open from other districts that went through this, that went for referendums, that did big construction projects. But out of the 3 or 4 finance and facility meetings, we talked about this and went through updates and have conversations. I know it took a long time, and but that's kind of the process prior to this, of the starting back in 2022 and presenting now.
So my expectation going through all of those meetings was, besides the one that Steve came to, where we were able to ask some real direct questions, or specific questions, I should say, is that by now we would have this information for all 5 schools, printed or printable in a PDF, updated of what we needed at all 5 schools. This is not significantly different than what we saw at,
We've
This-
completed everything for all the buildings.
so
Yeah,
why
this
is it
is
not
just
here?
one bill.
He's
This is
presenting
a sample of all.
just a sample to walk us through how it reads and how you suss out the larger
I'm
report.
struggling that it's not here. Because I wanted, because how can I talk about a 10-year plan? How can we talk about 10-year
Right.
anything?
No, I would say this, that is it, do we have it at our disposal, all 5? I know here, not today for time-wise, we can't
Yeah,
do
I
all
mean, I gave it to
5.
Anthony in November when we reviewed it.
We have
That
all
was
5.
not full completed construction plan.
It's.
I know there was question marks of like the pool and the manning and the construction work.
These were the things we added since that
Yeah.
November 28th meeting.
I
But
mean,
all
I'm
the all
specifically
the-
talking about like the site photo.
Those
the
are for
site-
all-
The
yeah.
master plan,
Those are all done.
master plan, for each floor of each building with the overall needs, essentially the cover page from Manning. That is what I feel like we were asking for, was
And
was
that's been
that. And
completed.
and I see the amounts, I see the projected estimates on the overall district totals, but I don't know what the
So-
$5 million is at Miller.
So
4.5 million.
one second, because I've heard him say a couple of times that it's done. So, and I'm reading between the lines, the idea was to maybe not have this is an 18-page presentation, let's not have a 58-page presentation.
That's what, when Anthony and I
for
spoke, this is just an example, but
for-
all the
I was
time.
like, just, yeah.
For the board meeting, which I can understand and frankly appreciate, so.
Have that for every poll.
So I think that maybe and I feel your frustration all the way from across the room, Leah. Maybe maybe we could just put a pin in this part of the conversation, and if we could get, as a board, if we could get a copy, and I mean, this is on the public, right? This is public content. If we could get that larger thing available to board and public,
It'll be posted on the website after tonight.
that would be super helpful, I think, as on this point.
Thank you for that. So that's something we're asking for. And I think to Leah's point too, we're going to get that, but knowing that it's not maybe with some of the points at the ease of.
I would have liked the cheat
understand.
sheet. I would have liked the cheat sheet ranking
Yeah.
across the
I think we asked for a
buildings.
general sheet, which I think maybe this is it. And
I mean,
you
with
can
the dollar
answer
amounts,
this.
yes.
Yeah, is the general sheet that we asked for kind of plain, that first sheet of the overall district totals. And that may be what we asked for, is that, like, kind of in general, it's not the detail, just the very first page. That's what we have in general estimated. We don't have it all here
Right.
done, but I know that's one that I asked. So that's something we will get, that will be to the board, but also public to the, it's going to be posted.
It's on the,
In
it's
a
gonna
way.
be, yeah, the website.
And soon to be under a heading, a legend that's specific for this conversation that we're having.
Yeah, the building and facilities conversation, right.
And something that we're going to have to continue to work with, because as Leah's saying, like, we have to make, if the public, if our community doesn't understand what we're talking about, we're not going anywhere. So we got to take those questions and those suggestions into play as we move forward. And one of the questions I have too with that is kind of on that, and for me, giving a sense of time. I think it's more so on just Manning, under the capital master plan of Manning. You have a priority a column. Is there a timing with that as we work through this? Like, I don't know if, again, this is maybe not the best
Are these the
question.
No, it's a
But-
very good question.
Like, I
the
understand how
plan
much
projects
time do
you're
we
talking
have?
about?
Like this view here,
Yeah, on the capital JT
correct.
money.
So
Yeah.
the
Yes,
timing.
the plan
Yeah,
project.
like
Really,
associated with.
We
that,
talked about
so-
that. It's really driven by your finances and when you want to complete them.
Well,
Right now-
well, I'm looking from you guys, not, because that's, to me, a different situation, that's the next, but like, when you say something is a high priority, what does that mean? Like, something we need to get to in the next year? And, because I think that's going to help our committees
What
decide
makes
too what we do
something
next.
high priority, what
Yeah.
makes something medium priority, what makes something low priority, what are the quantifiers for that?
The priorities were developed mostly by Joe, working with, together, we put those in. When they're completed, I mean, that really is going to be driven by your budget.
So I guess I'm asking, and this can be later also, no, we don't have to deal with that, but as I hope to be, I hope I'm accepted on the committee, but I want to know, like, is this something that can wait? I'm highly positive for a referendum to pass and then construction to begin in 2026, 27? Or are we going to shoot ourselves in the foot waiting that long? Is that what the priority means? And so, yeah, I know it's driven by how much money we raise and how much we have to spend, but I'm going to ask, and I think that comes from like Joe or whoever our construction, whoever we're using to help manage that, to say, hey, guys, I don't think, and it's just an example, I don't think the HVAC is going to wait that long. So that, I don't know, that helps me in making some decisions or driving an ask to the community, so.
Well, that's a great example. So like Manning's steam HVAC heating system. It's, original to different areas of that building. Joe spends a lot of time maintaining that and expense. That's a high priority to him, because if you renovated that and replaced it, his maintenance costs are going to go down, similar to what you did with the junior high. That was high maintenance. Now you have a new system, and that's going to be good for 25 years. You can continue systems. I mean, this is from the 20s, the 40s, the 50s. There's systems in schools that are from the 20s that are maintained. It just becomes expensive to maintain it. Steam's not as comfortable because you can't modulate the temperature versus hot water. So
something is a little bit more detailed. You won't necessarily get Joe saying, you have 2 years. You're going to say, we can do this with Band-Aids for every year for 5 years, or it'll be something like that. That's what you're saying? Okay.
I would love to see some type of like point system. of like ranking. Cause it's real hard to explain something's high. I don't want to talk to you for 10 minutes. I don't, and I'm like, if you're one of my like constituents, right? I don't want to try to explain to you for 10 minutes why it costs more to da-da-da-da-da-da-da, right? I want to be able to point to points. This project costs us, right now it costs us, more than, I don't know, 10% in upkeep costs every single year, potential upkeep costs, like just something that's very easy to quantify why this is a high priority. The history in this town is to Band-Aid whatever the heck we can Band-Aid with whatever piece of duct tape we can find. And that's, I think, partially because it's been very hard to quantify why we need the things done when we need them, like, done proactively before our kids are sweating and can't breathe in a building for multiple years, right? So like, I would love to, I just feel like saying something is high, saying something is medium, saying something is low priority is okay, but it is not as deep as I feel like we need to be able to go for these projects, to be able to understand that piece of like, Joe's in the building or one of his team members is in the building every other day fixing a radiator, right? Like, that costs 100 points.
I'm confident I could work with Joe and with Anthony on the costs, and then we could establish that. So it's more meaningful versus, high, medium, low.
Or just a definition with it, like, I don't know. That's what I said, like, sometimes I feel like I don't know what we're asking for, but
I think
just help with that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm thinking what she's trying to say is the high priority, does that mean we need to get it done within the next 6 months? Because it's a high priority, where it's a low priority, this can be pushed down
Next 2 years.
and focus on a medium or a high priority, like the definition of the time frame of how can, like, the fastest we need to get this done to accomplish the high priority.
And another thing, I hope this is helpful, I don't know, but I'm looking at these comparisons of, I don't know what page you're on, yeah, stay on that page there. And this is the Manning projects, right?
Manning.
Yeah, so the HVAC system replacement at $6.3 million, almost 6.4. And then I go down to page 14, which is the cost to renovate JT Manning. And I say, oh, wait a minute. You can renovate the whole building, I'm looking at page 15, for somewhere around 20 million. And that would include the HVAC, and that would include all these other things. Well, what are all these other things? In other words, I'm thinking right now, I'm trying to think like someone who doesn't know anything about this. And I'm saying to myself, why would you spend $6.5 million, $6.4 million, when you could just spend $15 million or $18 million or $20 million and get the HVAC and a whole ton of stuff more? And I'm keeping my language
Right.
PG. Yeah. And I'm sure there are great answers for that and well thought out answers, but I can't see them in here. And I think that's another one of the things that I'm hearing Leah say, not about this topic, but just in general terms. I can't see what needs to be done. I can't see why it needs to be done. I don't see how it compares to the various options that are alluded to in here. And unless I am an architect or a building science major with experience looking at this sort of thing, because I know it's in here. I do know it's in here. So that's what, and maybe that's not incumbent that's incumbent on the facilities committee, I don't know, to take this information and synthesize it into something that's digestible by the public. But I thought that, honestly, and maybe I'm just being naive, but I thought that's where we would be tonight, and we're not. So that's my take on things.
And I think that's what Ange was saying with like a cover sheet or like option one, like cost benefit analysis, option two.
Options, but this is a 10-year plan for Manning.
Options.
Right.
It's not a 10-year plan for the district.
Well, hold on, though.
But that's what, I know it exists, but I've been hearing it exists, and I've been hearing that it's coming. And that piece of just not being able to see the whole thing.
But I think that's where, again, we need to figure out what the next step, like, whose responsibility is that? I heard Carlos say, is that a facilities thing? Like, who figures out and who does the synthesizing?
I mean, I'm sure Anthony has it all in his head and the ranking, like, we just need him to spit it out.
Well, I don't think it's just Anthony.
Or not
think it's
Anthony,
like
I meant
Joe.
Joe. I'm like
Joe.
thinking of
Oh,
money,
Joe.
I'm thinking of money, and I said Anthony.
Because it's going to come back to him.
Right, it's gonna come back to Anthony.
Yeah, it comes up in so many different aspects of our job. It's like, who's in charge?
Right.
How are we going to get there? And, you know, that we have our expectations and the plans and wants for the district. And a lot of it we have to work out.
And you're right, that this has happened numerous times where action hasn't happened or progress hasn't happened because there's a lack of clarity on what's the next step and who's responsible for it. So if we do nothing else tonight, we've got this information completed for all of the buildings, even though it's not right here. What next? Is it we set a deadline on a facilities meeting and a deadline of what's coming out of that facilities meeting? Like, we need some deadlines.
When is the next facilities meeting is?
It's in March, so
So we're going to get to that
agenda
second.
Next agenda item.
We're going to speak to that a
Maybe,
little bit. But
maybe we should.
But this
get
was
to
the
that.
first part, and it is a step. We, you know,
It is.
late.
It's a little
but,
step.
You know,
That's cool.
this is why I really appreciate this board, because we're about making progress and making moves and thinking outside the box. And it will happen. Who wants to be at the table? Sorry, I've been watching Hamilton. And I think that's something we have to decide, and being transparent and going to a conference where you can't walk through exhibit hall and you see examples of what people are doing. And so I think that is a matter too, that we also as a board has to decide, you know, we love our relationship that we have with Cashman, but I don't think it's automatic. And so who do we want at that table? We will, and yes, we'll beg and plead to get so many people involved in this committee to help share that decision-making and what we want. Who do we want helping us with it? You know, so much to do, but we're a board that will get it done. And so.
And I think too, what you said, like, you know, we kind of joke about begging and pleading and however we can get the message, like, you know, these are enormous numbers potentially, and I've heard the word referendum here, I've seen it in memos and all over, like, if the potential for discussing a referendum doesn't bring community members to the finance committee table, I don't know what will. So
Right.
I'm just saying that louder for the people in the back watching this on YouTube tonight, like, it, you know, that we need people who are vehemently opposed to the concept and people who support it and want buildings. So like, this is happening
We need
now.
both sides of the table sitting
Yeah.
there. We're the only district who hasn't passed a referendum in forever and a day. Everyone around us is expanding and building, and breathable buildings, bright buildings to keep their kids awake and alert during the day. So, I mean, we need both sides of the table there.
And we saw a lot of people come out from GLC. A lot of these questions
Yeah.
came from those conversations. And I want those same people with the same,
Gumption.
the same
So what's our
gumption.
next-
I mean,
What's our next
it sounds like we're moving into our next topic.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
Any other questions?
Yeah,
Chris?
yeah,
we
if
should.
we don't have any more questions
Yeah.
for Steve, let's move into our next topic.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Steve, thank you.
Good.
Thank you so much.
So yes. I don't know if you want to start that, Anthony? With just talking
Next
about, I mean,
topic,
I
Anthony.
can keep talking.
No, I can start it. So the idea for this next
facility
discussion
planning.
item is to take this document and this, you know, presentation and form a committee to talk about the numbers, talk about the blueprints, talk about the planning for the future of the district. So that's why the facility planning committee should be formed to involve all stakeholders, because this is a huge cost and a huge change to the district. So it's not just a couple board members, myself, Joe. This is, we want everyone to attend, because this is the starting point of these conversations.
And you were not talking about a standing committee, you were talking about creating an ad hoc committee that exists for a period of time for a specific purpose, correct?
Yes, so the first one would be on March 11th at South. So that would be the first meeting of this facility planning committee.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's clear after the conversation tonight that, and I don't really understand or know, honestly, all the history of past referendums and attempts at, and Band-Aids and duct tape and the things you're talking about. I haven't lived in this community that long to know that history like you do, Leah, or others. But I would say that I don't think this is a board that is interested in just dreaming big. We want to dream big. We want a school district that dreams big, but that doesn't really do much. We need action from people on this board and in this administration, our other stakeholders and partners that are working with us, and obviously the community who is serious about this. People who are serious about this, who aren't just hoping we can build a new building or make some renovations, hoping we can do something about the pool, but are willing to roll up their sleeves and help us achieve those things. So I don't know what else to say, really. Yeah, it's going to take everyone, and we need active participants on all the fronts.
Right. I think this is something we need to get out through the community, through the village, like the village website, through the signs at the library and the firehouse. District 201 Facilities Committee, come join.
Like I said before, yes, we spoke about GLCs, like people ask, they want to see plans and results. This is where we do it. We didn't talk about GLCs to want to end the conversation there, and we said it then. We are continuing this work that we weren't done, and so, echo what you guys are saying. I think, we need to get our purpose and our goal, what we're doing with this new committee. Like it's not finance facility. This is wholly different, like this again. So, and we've talked about this before in other aspects of the board and the district, but
Yeah, I would
clear
hope,
plans, clear purpose, more dates so we can tell potential committee members, like this is how we plan to meet, this is what we plan to do.
yeah, I would hope the community, it's a lot of money, I'd hope they would come out and let's hear their thoughts, make what you want known to us, come out.
And deadlines. We love a good due date, internally and with whomever we're working with, so deadlines.
And from the district level, we'll be working with the public relations department and blast that information out. Even if, we do see an increase of individuals as the meetings progress, which we expect to have them once a month or even twice a month, we still need to blast the communication out. Front page of our website, information sent home. We got to go all measures to send this information out so individuals can know the goal of this meeting, the dates, and what we are trying to accomplish.
And where to find information.
Where to
like
find
this.
information.
Where to find information that is easily digestible and understandable.
And I hate to say this, but I'm going to bring it up. Can we nitpick every building's calendar to make sure this meeting hits in a spot where people are open to come? Because usually that's where a lot of, I wish I could come, I wish I could come.
I think we cannot.
The
I'm
best
gonna,
to the
no,
best.
I'm gonna be very honest, like, I think that there is a point where we're, where we can't look at everybody, we can do our best, but it's like our Tuesday night meetings. Our meetings happen on Tuesday night. It doesn't always work with things that are going on in the buildings, things that are going on in the district,
Correct.
but I feel like if we get to this point where it's like, let's try to figure out what's open for, we generally have our meetings on like a Monday
Right.
or a Wednesday. I don't want to dig too far into it, because if we're talking about meeting once or twice a month for a, gosh knows how long, undetermined period of time.
Right,
it's gonna get-
the after
it's gonna get
effect,
ineffective.
essentially, but I mean, just that first open meeting, just, you have to glance at the calendars.
I think it is just that, it's a glance. And that's pretty much how we came up with that date. because we want to give a date. We want to give a date today. That's what my ask was. And so, no, I can tell you now, I didn't look at everything that has been scheduled.
Okay,
But-
just because I know March is when things start up again, and it's like getting, but understandable,
So the
understandable.
date was originally the Finance and Facility Committee meeting. However, I feel strongly that this would come first over
Okay.
that Finance and Facility Committee meeting. So that's why we moved and took away that date for that committee to slot this one in.
And it's good to like hear that, because that you need to know that we did delve
We
into
did,
this.
okay.
And I think it is a Tuesday before, is that right?
No, it's a
It's
Monday.
Monday.
Okay.
We were talking about doing it before our regular meeting.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
If possible.
So we're saying it's almost impossible to get every date, but we actually turned over like 3-4 dates going back and forth. So there's a lot of consideration that's put into them. But
So
we'll
it
have
sounds
that
like-
first one.
It sounds like we need to have a purpose laid out prior to the March 11th meeting. And it sounds like I would like to know that purpose prior to the March, I would like to make sure that that purpose is on track prior to the March 11th meeting. So then backing that up, when do we need A, who is responsible for creating the purpose of the committee? And B, when does that come to the board for us to discuss?
We have, going to your second question first, as I proposed, like there's always work done with our team, with Joe, with Anthony. So these talks will be in progress. But we also have 4 meetings before then that I think it should be on the agenda, that this is where we're at and this is what we have.
Yeah, so when do we
That's what-
want to have that draft purpose to the board? And I don't
Can
think
we
it
have
should be
it
the
the first
meeting
meeting of
before.
February, the month before? That gives the
Yes.
month of January for a lot of discussion to happen, and then the first meeting in February, it's right there, 1 month prior.
That sounds
Yes.
right.
That sounds really good.
What's
I
that?
could give you the purpose tomorrow.
Wonderful.
I truly.
But we're saying that at
Well,
the
look, we're
very
giving you
least,
until the end of January.
right, at the very least, this will be an agenda with that.
Then we can have the purpose and the
And,
first 6
yes.
meetings set up.
Right.
There you go. But proposing that first meeting in February, this is another discussion item of where we are, and that purpose is stated clearly. So, the first draft is tomorrow.
All right, we'll see the first draft. Beautiful.
And the other piece is, the village has been doing the visioning workshops for this part of Quincy right out front of here. They've been able to record it. I think we should think about recording these meetings from allowing people to catch up. So people don't feel like they have to be able to make it to every single meeting to stay on track with what's happening.
Or
So
the
people can
person who
feel-
realizes it's happening 3 months into it.
Yes.
and
Right.
Says, I want to catch up, I want to be involved.
They can
There
watch
you
the
go.
meetings, they can catch up real quickly. If someone, because I think we lose people when we ask them to like sign on for something for an indeterminate period of time. I think we lose people because people are afraid to commit. So like, I think it's important in this instance that we record it. I think the village is doing it. I think they're doing it for a reason. And like, as a community member, I was able to catch up on that visioning workshop.
Right, exactly.
And I really appreciated that.
Yep.
And it made me feel like I could get involved easier later on.
Right.
I agree with you, and, I can't speak for the board and the community, but for myself, what I envision is like a separate website within our website.
That's
So
right.
solely Facility Planning Committee, where each meeting, yes, it's recorded if we can, but links so individuals can see. And as the meetings progress with the links, I assume more people will attend because the topics will get more interesting.
Right.
And they'll know what we're actually talking about. Construction plan labeled there in this section. Videos of the schools, walking through the schools. So everything in relation to this committee, construction work, and the future of construction for the district will be housed in this location. But that includes links of all these meetings.
Even if we put it out as a freaking podcast.
Right.
Just so someone can listen to the meeting.
Yes.
I think there's an important piece of visual, but I'm a super visual person, and I know lots of people who like watch things on YouTube and just listen to them because they don't need the visuals. So, just as a piece of like, you can catch up if you went on vacation.
Yeah. Well, we can continue, and you can continue to workshop like how that looks between now and in February or whatever, but this seems like the right next thing.
It feels like we're out of time.
Well, we're
We
gonna
were
move.
out of time.
We're gonna move on to the board reports from the ISB conference, and we're gonna talk on.
Talk about how
We're
much
gonna talk
time
about
we're
how much time
We're out of.
talking about. I'm curious, though, I'm seeing Jack awfully pensive over there. Is there anything you want to add on this?
I'm confident that we'll do this collaboratively, that we will have all the voices in our community have the opportunity to be heard, that we'll create a shared vision for what we want to do, and that we will execute on it.
Okay.
And it's an exciting opportunity. I could say a lot more, but that's the main thing, that I know the nature of this board is to be collaborative and to include the community and to hear what they want for the future of this school district. And we'll do that in partnership. And I'm confident that will happen, and something great will happen for our kids. I could keep talking, but maybe that's...
Thanks. No, I could see the wheels were turning, so.
So for that March 11th meeting, what time are you thinking?
3:30. We can always adjust it to make sure that we have the most attendance there.
Okay, thank you.
30 is a little early.
But March 11th will be the date.
Cool.
There are no objections? No. Thank you. Very good discussion. So let's move along to our board reporting from actually tri-conference session.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Anyone want to start us off with,
I'll just introduce it.
Okay.
We are not going back and forth this time. So Shannon, I apologize, I didn't get this to you earlier, it's in your inbox. What you guys have, and if we can post it into the board so it's public, is just, look, every year we do IASB, every year we've tried to figure out how to bring that information back to the public because
Divide and conquer.
there is a cost to the conference, and it is part of, it's paid for by public funds, and so we should talk about what we have learned at this massive conference. So every year I feel like we keep on doing a little bit of a better job. So this year I compiled all of the sessions that everybody went to, and I let me preface this. IASB is a purely voluntary conference, and it is the week before Thanksgiving. It is a rough weekend. And so not everybody can make it, and not everybody can make it every year. And so there is no shame in not going. IASB does a great job, but so not all board members go, and I don't think all board members have gone every year ever, from what I can tell. So what I have done here is I've just taken all the sessions that I knew that everybody went to, and I pulled their blurb from the app, so like how the session was described, who was in it, because I thought that would be nice to have some contact people, essentially. And then I tried to, anywhere that there was a document, I pulled the document in. On the very first one, I took pictures of that slideshow, and I'm very glad I did because that document was not posted, or that PowerPoint was not posted. And so I did not put any narrative in here. This is strictly straight off of the IASB app that kind of manages the conference. And so next year we'll do a little bit something more. Maybe next year I'll add because it is a triple conference. It's administrators,
Business
officers. So it is a big conference. So maybe next year we add in, what our admin went to. I don't know, but. So the purpose of it is to be able to go through each of the sessions that people went to and just kind of speak to it, discuss it, which we did last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll start off. I am a fan of the conference. I think it's at a time, especially the last couple years, last previous year. This wasn't our year when you're running for office and getting a new superintendent. But even those years when I went there, I praised their general sessions. They seem to get very motivating speakers. This year they had Dr. Trent, who has an amazing story. I would, I don't know if it's listed in here or the name, but just it reminds you or they help to remind you why we do this, especially they're speaking to board members and it's tailored that way. So they do a fine job with that and her story with education, even equality and let's say opportunity for education. It's great. Trying to be short, I have lots of things that I enjoyed from it. I went to, as listed here, I went to a session with what your superintendent wants to tell you, but can't.
You could have just asked me.
And it speaks directly to that. So they had a general counsel there. They had a director of professional development and previous superintendent who I found her part of the presentation and I liked the best. And they had a field services director of the IASA. And basically said this was like a real talk session about different things that they saw in their career. And I think some things that stood out from there was some of these things. Take time to communicate on how, or a superintendent wants, take time to communicate on how they can get better. That's always informal and formal. That's something we will be discussing and we want to discuss. I think Leah and I talked about that. That's the evaluation we have to do, and that you don't have to wait until then. Basically, you have an approachable superintendent and you speak with them throughout their time here. Or something else that she said, in very bold cap, said, let us do our job. And so, you know, we hired a superintendent, but, you know, we give them our vision and then allow them to do it. So something we've said before, but just good to hear from their side of things. Another thing I said, I think I sent it to different people. Not everything on Facebook is true. And so she just spoke about times that something came out on Facebook and someone called her early in the morning. And to the second part of that is that we're all human, so kind of having that respect. So basically, you know, there are some things there they talked about. They had other topics in there. I think, they had something, maybe posted, maybe not. Maybe I just took screenshots. I also attended Equity for Leaders and preparing to guide the conversation. That presentation was more, I think, on starting, which was still informative, on how, I think it was Lockport, how they began their mission for equality and doing much of the things that we're trying to do here. And so they gave examples. Of course, I had more questions with that, but a lot of it is starting with a team and the admin team and the board first. Initially, they did their workshops. What was interesting is that they had executive coaching and they had one-on-one sessions once a month with this initial team, but it just helped build that bridge out into their school districts and communicating the same thing, and everybody's on board with the same thing, but they went through their transition, and then they brought in building leaders, and they kind of talked about that beginning process. Another thing is they had a student council, so something we talked about in our goals that we will talk about more. The students were there, but we didn't get to hear from them, so I just wish we could have done that. I also asked that I didn't necessarily get the greatest answer to, so it's something, again, we're going to have to work on. But I asked them, how do they measure how well they're doing? Like or what did they use? How did they think outside the box? Because it's not a clear-cut data point, but like us, we're a board that wants data. We want to be able to say, this is where we started, this is where we are. So they didn't really get into that, but it was still great to see someone else doing the same type of work. Board policy work, gone to that too, and it just speaks more about like our role of the board and how the school board directs through policy. And so it was still a lot of overview, but still, again, we're learning, and we get a lot of learning points at these sessions. I ended with the last general session. I did go to that Sunday. That's a hard day to attend also. So again, there's a point to what Leah's saying. Sometime board members attend one day or 2 days. So that is not necessarily mandatory that if you go, you have to go to all dates. Sunday is not a huge day, but it was a good session to attend, a very great speaker again, but hers was on managing stressful situations. And I think the big thing that came out of was how to transform uncomfortable conversation into constructive communication. So it was really good. A lot of points from her. I want to buy her book. Things that I want is to be more organized than we were this year, which we were more organized than we were the years before, but dividing and conquering. There are pre-registration sessions that feel like it's a little bit more for the board member that's been on a board for several years. And I found myself wanting that, but like not being organized and actually ticking off that, hey, I want to attend this. But if we do attend those, we can be organized to say, if one person goes, we all get the information. So we don't all have to attend because there's a cost to that too. But there are really some good sessions, it looks like.
Well, and like on that point, we know we can't all make it.
Right.
All 3 days, 2 days, right? If we can get proactive and talk to each other about like what our hopes are, if the board is all like, I was interested in this, I was interested in this, I was interested in this, like someone can get to that session, you know, like dividing and conquering. Yeah.
And we did that a little bit like right before, like, oh, I want to attend this, this, and this.
Getting a little
I'm going to
further
that.
out.
Great, so I don't have to, so.
I just have one quick question for you, Gina. Before that, I feel like that's every conference, like you leave wanting to buy a book or 7,000
Yeah,
books,
yes.
right?
Yes, it is.
But in this, I can't stress this enough right now as it's getting a little bit later. I don't mean to discuss this topic right now, but is it a future agenda item to talk about superintendent evaluation? Because I feel like we haven't touched on that.
Yeah, I think
we were
that's
gonna
I brought that,
have
that
to,
made me bring it up to remember to bring it
I
up.
just saw that,
so.
like, and so
Well,
grateful
if
that you
there-
guys learned more about that process.
If
which
there
is
wasn't
great.
going to be one, there was going to be one after I spoke.
Correct, yeah. I mean, I was like, oh man, we gotta.
I don't
get going
know
on that.
if there was
Okay.
a plan for it, but there was
Great.
going to be one after I speak.
That's
And just on a slight side note, you mentioned the equity piece. All of us as board members got a email today from IASB to fill out their survey for Vision 2030, which is, you know, IASB is essentially like our lobbying arm. They see if we tell them, hey, this is what you want to work on. One of the things in there that they're asking about, what do you want our goals to be? Because they essentially set like 3 goals. One of them is creating equity, measurements so if you haven't, it's a super quick survey, maybe 10 minutes, but that is one of the pieces. So it is clearly not just on our radar, it is also on IASB's radar, figuring out how we measure equity.
You were talking about the superintendent thing, though, right?
Oh, yeah, I'm talking about superintendent evaluation. I was just like, oh man, we gotta start talking about that. So,
I'm done.
I'll go next. I'll try to be brief. So the superintendent evaluation, that we just talked about it a second ago, I found that session really informative. And my 2 big takeaways from that session were A, it never even occurred to me, we should be evaluating our superintendent on a formal way. And I've never been involved with it. I'm not saying that the board doesn't do it or has never done it. I've just never been involved with it. I'm completely ignorant to the method that is used to evaluate our superintendent here in the school district. And at bare minimum, I would like to learn what it is. And if there isn't anything formal, I think we need to have an agenda item to either address what it is and/or what it could be or should be.
I don't think we did
so
one, 'cause
that's-
Kevin was in our
that's one.
department, right?
We did.
We did, you
Yeah,
did.
I thought we
did
did
one.
one.
I
We
can't remember.
Kevin.
did one, but then one of them was evaluations were paused for COVID.
Oh,
And then
okay.
we did one, but it was after, not a but, and it was after Kevin had already signed his retirement contract,
okay.
and then he didn't have so essentially,
thank you.
we have never really done
A real one.
That's why I feel like I've never done one.
Well,
Like,
again,
yeah,
this
yeah.
board.
So we,
I'm not saying that
Yeah.
there isn't a process
Yeah.
for it.
Yep.
I'm not saying that there isn't defined. I'm just saying I don't know what it is, and
Yep.
I'd like to know what it is.
who has that?
Is that,
Like,
ISAB, and she spoke
got it.
about
Okay.
it.
like, is
Okay,
that
so-
Arlana?
No,
Oh.
well, it may be, but it was who we went through, they spoke about it also.
Okay.
And
Then-
it was
well, at the
supposed to be
very
a
least, we'll
resource.
talk a little bit more
Yeah.
about it.
Oh, I know what you're
Yeah.
talking about, okay.
Thank you.
And then the other part of this that was a big takeaway for me, and it actually is in line with just having this put together in the first place, and that is that I'm really interested in people, administrators, boards, architects, whatever, that do great work. I love people that do great work and leave behind a structure for the people that are going to do this next. I do not want to be on this board for the next 20 years, but I do want this board to serve this community for the next 200 years. So we need to leave behind a structure that can be used by other people and built upon by other people. So whether it's superintendent evaluations or how does this school district approach the joint annual conference, these are structures we need to be putting in place. And the superintendent one is fundamental because it's like the biggest job this board has, is to hire and manage and supervise, if you will, the superintendent. So I don't know if supervise is the right word, but Jack doesn't need any supervision. But okay, the other thing that I went to was the delegate assembly. That's a really boring conversation. It was eye-opening for me. It was eye-opening how the assembly actually functions, but I could talk about that too long, and I don't think that this board or the public is going to learn a whole heck of a lot from what I have to say about that delegate assembly, other than it was, like I said, eye-opening for me, and I want to do it again next year. So, and you've done it before, and you know more what I'm talking about. And then the last thing I went to was the approving referenda in challenging times, which, again, a callback to the conversation earlier tonight. My big takeaway from that is, holy shit, we're running out of time. And that's why my reaction to what I saw today is like, come on, really? And that's on us, maybe, as a board or as a school district or whatever, but we really need to be hitting marks here time-wise, because clocks tick. They just keep ticking. So there, and sorry for my French. This one really slapped me in the face. We're behind. We're behind.
We're behind.
We're behind.
Yeah,
Very behind.
I was at that one as well. Kevin was at that one as well. The timelines, talking about the timelines there was like, I mean, 2026, that's 2 years off before we're even talking about touching a brick at buildings that are
Crumbling.
That are crumbling. So that's it. That's what I got.
I can go next. So I attended on Saturday and Sunday. Saturday, I went to the decisions. So just learning about board's decisions, being a board member. So since I am the newbie of the group, it was definitely interesting just to kind of see as a board member, what decisions we have, how to learn that process, working with your team, working together as a team with the other board members. They did a lot of scenarios with us. So it was just kind of interesting to see veteran board members, and they grouped us in tables. So it was really nice because, you had some board members like myself that, were recently appointed in, May or even June of this year. I think one board member, she had took over like 2 weeks before the conference, and she was getting accustomed. And then we had a veteran board member at our table that had she's been on her board for I think 28 years or something.
Hey,
so,
Carlos?
20 years. Carlos? Right. So we were just kind of looking like, well, what can we add to this, but it was just interesting, to get everybody's insight on, what decisions need to be made as a board, how it affects
the schools, our children in our district, administrators, community members, and things like that. So that was really, really interesting. I enjoyed that. I attended another one on Saturday. It's not listed on here. I apologize. I can't remember the actual title of that one. But that was actually led by it's one of the districts here in DuPage County that oversees Willowbrook High School. So that was really interesting just to get some takeaways on how they've kind of built up, a variety of incentives within their districts and their schools. And then that Sunday, I attended being a new board member. So that was really interesting because it was all of us newbies throughout the state as new board members. And one thing that I was proud to pat myself as a member of our board on our back, that I feel that we are steps ahead of many boards throughout the state, is that when they spoke upon committees, it was so many new board members that were just like, what? We don't have that. I was like, yes, we have it. So I was actually excited about that. Like, okay, we're already, like steps ahead with that. So that was actually really interesting because when I raised my hand, like, well, we already are making way with that. Everybody kind of looked like, well, we haven't even had that conversation yet, so I felt really good about that. But just takeaways on, how other new board members are adjusting, to working with, their boards and their superintendents and things like that. And it was some great takeaways with that too. So it was first time, definitely enlightening. I did enjoy it. I would definitely like to attend in the future, possibly for additional days. But even for the 2 days that I attended, it is definitely busy, but definitely informative. So I definitely enjoyed myself.
Remind me, what was the name of that last one that you went to?
I think it was being a new board member.
Board member?
Yeah.
And then what was the one on Saturday?
I'll get that one for you. I can't recall off of the top of my head.
Okay.
I have it.
Email me. Yeah,
Yep.
because I want to add it to this so that Shannon can
Okay.
kind of add it to the.
Yeah, I have both of those, so I'll get those to you for sure.
So I was at the Approving Referendums in Challenging Times also. I took away the kind of nuts and bolts of understanding the referendum process, when is the best time to do so, which to me really they had emphasized presidential elections because you get the most people coming out and kind of feel like we're going to miss that chance. Yeah, we're not ready. How to convey the message, wording of the referendum. I thought Paul Hanley was really knew his business. He was really good. So really impressed by him.
I know Eric Miller.
Oh, that's right.
Paul was the consultant.
Yeah, right.
Eric was
Yeah, right.
the CSPO.
Eric was the assistant
He was the C-
financing
Yeah.
review. Yeah.
So, and then I went to monitoring performance through policy. It was okay. Honestly,
Don't tell the presenter.
Another typical conference experience.
Do your survey.
yeah, my weak point is policy, so I just wanted to try to sharpen, why we monitor, what we look for, how to do this, what policies to look at. It just really motivated me. I need to spend more time reading our policies. I'm guilty I haven't, taken that time to do that, so. And then I went Sunday morning, board member parent hat, just ideas how to have separate roles and I think I've done okay. Honestly, go to the school, I'm dad there, I'm not board member. And a lot of stuff I send my wife to,
So, yeah. So I mentioned I went to the referendum one, which was basically, we're out of time. I did a couple of sessions on superintendent evaluations because nobody here is going to be surprised that I love a good process. And we don't have one. And one of those sessions was very interesting and very moving and a great way to kick off the conference. And the other session was not. any of those things. But it also gave me two really interesting, like, there were two different evaluation tools. But something that I took away that was very, like, meaningful from the first one, the super eval one, was the superintendents, the tenured superintendents, talking about utilizing this tool that's very, not metric, but structured and with lots of places to give quantifiable, like, success throughout the course of the year. It is no secret that, like, school boards have become a real strange place to be in the last couple of years. And when I think about, like, our goals are very clear, right? And very kind of measurable. And when I think about potential, like, future board members, right, taking issue with a superintendent just cause, like, one thing, like, this superintendent spoke about, like, I did not get along with a board member. And it was like, this board member was like, no, it was one thing, like, God knows when. And this board member has decided, I don't like this superintendent. And he was able to show through these very quantifiable things, right? And we've done this, and we've done this, and we've done this, and we've done this. And eventually, like, that relationship changed. And I don't think that that is the case often, especially this is a people thing, right? So hearing that superintendent, very tenured superintendent, speak about that was very kind of like, when I think about, like, you know, the future of this district and the future superintendents of this district, our current and future superintendents, being able to celebrate their successes through a great evaluation process, very, very important for all of those reasons, and our administrators as well. So I just, oh golly, and then I did a lot of, like, policy stuff. So about board meetings, right? Effective board meetings. That session was not, it was okay. I'll put that at okay. I did learn that they added a 16th exception to OMA in the last year. And, like, most of the people in the room were, because it was part of the school, it was part of the admin professionals conference. There was a lot of admin professionals in the room, and most of them were like, you guys added a 16th? And I was like, oh crap, that's not good. So they added a 16th exception to OMA, which has to do with, like, parent behavior / attendance at events. So we have had that history piece, being able to discuss that in closed session. And then I also got the book that's like that goes along with that, just to work through, like, our potential adjustments for the coming year to our board meetings so that we can be more effective and better with time. So yeah, it was a good conference, and happy to help with this piece. Create a process.
Thanks. No, thank you for beginning this, because before it was just kind of a brief talk, but we have something to show, you know, what was done, what was attended, and some other pieces if people want to look more into it. But it's important to let, you know, our community know what we did for a busy weekend.
Thank you for putting it together.
Oh, you're welcome.
Are we going to move on to the most contentious item on the?
Yes, this is going to be a long talk. The copier extension.
The copier.
Oh, man.
This is
Waiting all week for
That was a
it.
great transition.
I've been waiting all week.
So the past month and a half, Konica Minolta came to the district and analyzed each building, each printer and copier that we have, to see if we can maximize the costs and savings and also the productive usage of all of our technology, because our 60-month lease is due at the end of this
Did you
month.
say 60-month lease?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So based on that, and based on the IT department and what has worked and what hasn't worked the last 60 months, we came to an agreement of increasing the number of copier and printers from 12 to 14. And those would be copiers that would produce black and white instead of color. That would cut down the cost as well. So in total, we pay $22,686 per month This new 60-month lease would be an increase of $64.25, which is $2,750. The savings of roughly $10,000 each year comes with the toner and copy paper, because within this monthly fixed cost includes a fixed toner rate. So currently, we pay on a cash flow monthly basis on our toner and copier costs. Well, over the course of the years, that has significantly increased. And the vendors, they're hard to find, they're back order. So this would limit that stress of costs, and it's just already built into the monthly rate. So with looking at historically, we spend with toner and copiers, or copy paper, $10,000 each year. Well, this is built into that. So there's that savings over the course each year for 60 months.
That's great.
Saving them dollars, Anthony.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because the fixed cost of each toner for all the printers and copiers are in this monthly cost, where the 2,686 doesn't have that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are all of the copy machines just black and white, or is there
No.
color? Oh, got
They're-
it.
Yeah,
Just the two new ones.
correct. And we're also shifting some of the printers to copiers as well, because that will also limit the cost of toners and printers and capacity.
Nice.
Okay, so we'll still be able to, like, our staff will still be able to print some things in color.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's like a main office printer.
Correct.
Okay, cool.
We have 2 more machines, don't we?
Correct.
So that's great.
Right?
Yeah.
That's great.
Look at them dollar savings, keeping that balanced budget.
Yeah. So, thank you. So yeah, this is, IT department, myself and Kanika agreed that locking the 60-month lease again would save the district a significant amount. Plus, again, we're locked in for this rate, so it'll
Seems
benefit.
like a no-brainer.
No brainer.
Right.
Thank you.
See, that was exciting, Carlos. I know.
Not contentious, exciting.
Took about 2 minutes. So we're going to keep it moving. If there are no other questions for Anthony, we'll move to our action items. So action item number 1 is the chair will entertain a motion to adopt the resolution setting the 2023 tax levy as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Avia?
Yes.
Mr. Marin?
Yes.
Ms. Redonio?
Yes.
Ms. Steckity?
Yes.
Ms. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Rogers?
Yes.
Ms. Conover?
Yes.
Motion carries. Resolution passes. Number 2, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the resolution authorizing a supplemental tax levy to pay the principal of and interest on outstanding limited bonds of Community Unit School District 201, DuPage County, Illinois, as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Marin?
Yes.
Ms. Redonio?
Yes.
Ms. Steckity?
Yes.
Ms. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Rogers?
Yes.
Ms. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Avia?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Number 3, the chair will entertain a motion to authorize and direct the treasurer to pay bills received in December 2023 for the 2024 fiscal year as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Redonio?
Yes.
Ms. Steckity?
Yes.
Ms. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Rogers?
Yes.
Ms. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Avia?
Yes.
Mr. Marin?
Yes.
Passes. Number 4, approval of the copier extension with Konica Minolta. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the contract with Konica Minolta as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Steckity?
Yes.
Ms. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Rogers?
Yes.
Ms. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Avia?
Yes.
Mr. Marin?
Yes.
Ms. Redonio?
Yes.
All right. Motion- And we will be skipping the next item on the action item list and move to the superintendent's report.
So I do want to just show appreciation for the board, how serious they take their responsibilities and their continuous learning. The conference, they really approach it with a zeal and a seriousness, and it's a great example for everybody that we should all be continuous learners and improve ourselves. So that's to be noticed, no doubt. We do talk about follow through and execution, and not just talk, but take action. We have our IASB equity training session for all the administrators in the district and the school board that's taking place on January 11th. So we didn't just have the audit, we're following through. The first step is for us to get shared knowledge and continuous knowledge about equity and how we can be the best leaders in this process. and we'll eventually follow up with all the recommendations that were made to us, including community members and staff members and students to form those committees in the future. But the first step is to have our equity meeting, which is for all admin in the district and the board on January 11th. So we're looking forward to that. Student behavior, which is really important. I think we're coming to the last days of this first semester, and I say this I think it's been a very strong semester in all the buildings, and I'm very proud of that. And that's a product of a culture that includes the board, admin, parents, certainly teachers, staff, families, community, and our students. I'm very proud of them. You know, these are young people who are learning and growing. They're not perfect. But overall, and I've had many opportunities to be in the buildings and observe, and of course get reports from the administration on almost a daily basis. It's been a very positive semester as far as the way our students have conducted themselves, and that's really one of the most important priorities in the district. So that's excellent. And I think it's a product of students feeling cared for and supported. Like I say, we are not perfect. We are always looking at finding ways to get better. And it's quantifiable, and we'll make that report in second semester but that's really a positive. So many beautiful things happening. There's not time to mention them all. The formal dance that took place at Manning for second and third graders and fourth and fifth graders. Awesome. Really a cool thing to do. Hats off to Jada and Lindsay and their whole team for recognizing that coming out of COVID, sometimes our young people are learning how to be social again and how to interact with each other in a positive and fun way. And that was a very positive event. I want to also thank many people, but led by Henry Gomez and Matt Franklin, the Manning Dads Project, where, you know, there's fathers who are coming to the playground during recess and showing their care for our young people. It's really a beautiful team of people to complement the work done by all of our PTOs and booster clubs. Once again, the band boosters had a tremendously successful craft fair, which is another way our parents just invest in our kids and our school community. I can't mention everything, but as we're coming to a close of the first semester, the teachers too have worked so hard to improve our curriculum and assessments and instruction. And that work is not finished, but it is appreciated. I'm telling you, we really pushed hard to improve what we're giving to our kids, and the teachers have not backed down. And we've got a lot more work to do, but their efforts have been incredible, led by our administrative team. So we're coming to the close of the first semester. It's been a positive one.
Thank you.
Did you mention the Future Sentinels night or no?
I didn't.
Oh, that was so fun
please
too.
jump
Yeah,
in.
that was so great, and I thought it was really cool. Like the younger kids got so excited, and just to see that unity among the district was really
Yes.
great. So yeah, it was fun.
It's something that, they've done it through basketball, but, but in other ways we've done it, like football night and the cheerleaders.
Yeah,
and
yeah, the
it's
big
just
cheer and
it's great to
always
see
great.
like our whole school district come together, like to show like this is the, we start from pre-K.
And here's where you're gonna be.
They see the big
Yeah.
kids playing, like
Yeah.
it's a great thing. Oh, I thought you were gonna say something.
Oh, no, we have.
And we can
board-
kind of roll into board reports.
Yeah,
so,
board
yeah.
reports,
Sorry,
right?
I got a
Yeah.
jump start, I guess, on that.
No, it's all right.
That's all I got.
Are we on board reports?
Yeah,
Okay.
let's continue it. It's a flowing.
I just want to say that the dance, the formal dance was something super, super, super well done and well attended, and just, wow, it's almost like, well, why didn't we do that before? And there's all 1,000 reasons why we didn't, of course, but man, it was great. And I agree with this, the Future Sentinels felt like community. And something came up that night, actually, that I think is, I don't know, I'm going to just drop it on the board here and now. In some ways, it's sort of like not mundane, but not very complicated thing, but it's also a very interesting concept, and that is that we have like 4 different mascots
It's come up before.
in the community, and that's all good and well, but as one school district, it would be really nice to find a way to unify maybe just the colors, or
We make a big apple that runs around?
I don't know.
Not very intimidating on a football
But
field.
anyway,
Green
The
apples,
idea-
the red apples, the golden delicious apples.
the idea of unifying the district colors and maybe not having the exact same mascot, but a theme throughout the district for the mascots is a very interesting one. And I know that there will be people, I can imagine that there will be people that would say, well, Miller's always been the Mustangs and Manning's always been the Meteors or what. I get that. I understand that. And it's not just change for change's sake. This is really about bringing the community together,
Yeah.
bringing the school district together. And while it's super simple, it's also can be pretty profound. And we've talked a lot about, replicating the success that we're having at these buildings across the district. And this is just, in my opinion, just one more component of that. And so there, it's on.
I'd love that in a sweatshirt whenever it happens, another sweatshirt to add to the.
I mean, economies of scale.
Right.
There's also economies of scale. There's all kinds of good reasons for it. We can maybe have an agenda item. Maybe I don't know. I don't know where it belongs in the school board's work or in the administration's work or whatever. I don't really know. There are all kinds of benefits to it. Being able to buy spirit wear in elementary school and wear it all the way through your career. For
Yeah, the
parents
same
and for
colors.
students.
Yeah.
So
What are the
anyway.
things that lead up to Sentinels. If you
Right.
stay with Sentinels, yeah, all those.
I think it's,
conversations, who knows?
I never would have even occurred to me, and someone who's
Mustang
not on this
runs
board
into
brought it up, and I was like,
and it lands
heck
on
yeah.
the Panther.
Very interesting.
Which Texas them.
Go ahead.
I know these board reports end up seeming just more like parent things, but, you want to talk about talent
No,
show? No. I'm going to talk about something else. I was going to say, if you want to cover talent show then.
Sure, I can cover it. Like we, out there, like say we sometimes forget to mention things, but I was a part of the Westmont High School Talent Show, which was awesome. Like I praise our kids all the time for one, getting up on stage and presenting themselves, but also with the talent they have, and they're willing to share that. So, and it's a fun night. Everybody's there applauding everyone, and I think our students know, like, again, you see firsthand what Jack talks about at the high school. He has talked about just that respect, that mutual respect that kids have for each other, and just happy to see teachers up there. Teachers are willing to be there and showcase or laugh at themselves. It's just a great time, and you just see that. So it was a wonderful fundraiser for the band as they are going towards their trip next year. So, but it was well attended and a great show.
Yeah, I was there as well. I love it. I love how outgoing and everything the high school gets together. So it's amazing. I did want to talk about, and coming out of COVID, it reminded me, a lot of things are coming back together. And one of them is our cheerleaders at the junior high and the high school are going back to competition. This is the year they're doing it. Coach Manassas has been coaching for years, and they're bringing it back. So this weekend, our junior high cheer was out learning their choreo, and next month they'll compete against a couple of schools. I don't have the full details, but they're working hard, and it's pretty exciting. I'm not sure when the high school one is, but there's that. Boosters, it takes a village. There is basketball tournaments the next 2 weeks, and just need some hands on deck to sell concessions. The boosters help give scholarships to the athletes and get things that the coaches need that don't come out of the school budget district. So if you can help out for like an hour and a half, sell some popcorn, sell some pizza. Hour and a half, and if you have a junior high student, they can earn service hours, but an adult needs to be with them. So yeah, look at the boosters, and CUSD's website or Facebook and website has pushed that out as well, so you can find the Sign Up Genius there.
I also want to say for our PR, whew, wasn't at the dance, but I want, just overall, what they're putting out there and just almost commercials and the YouTube, I love it, I love it.
The game has been up.
Yeah,
has.
I think I hug Anna every time I see her. She's probably like space, but I think it's wonderful. Keep up the great
We've been on that committee for years, and this is things that we were just reaching for, you know, I love it.
Showcasing the parade, they're doing such a wonderful job with, I think we talked about some ideas, so no, they're not on the table right now. But, yeah, we always got ideas, but Edith and Anna, and I'm forgetting the other person that's on the.
Haley, Hannah, Haley?
Haley.
Is it Haley? Wait,
I
Hannah.
said
Anna Macy?
Hannah.
Hannah.
I knew it was an H.
and
I'm sorry.
and Hannah.
I'm so sorry, Hannah.
Same name.
Also, Mrs. Ingstrom, like, just that whole team. Like, I love pictures. I love seeing those posts. So, kudos. Great job. All right, we'll go to, there's no public comment. We'll go to future meetings and events. So, wishing our high school students good luck and good skill for their final exams, starting tomorrow, but from the 20th to the 22nd. And then welcoming in, I'm sure they will be, winter break, December 25th to January 5th. And then school resumes on January 8th, 2024. Happy New Year. And then our next USD 201 board meeting is January 9th. Any other dates? I know sometimes we have others, but.
Our training, but that's just ours.
Are you guys tired yet? All right, the chair will entertain a motion to I'm sorry, nope, we're not. No. Okay, not entering closed session. The chair will entertain a motion to adjourn the December 19th, 2023 regular meeting of the Board of Education.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, meeting adjourned.